7090 ruling too artificial. That story was taken from the Inside newspaper. Government strives to tame CD4 as it tops Africa West currency table. Government strives to tame CD4 as it tops Africa's West currency table. Government fighting corruption successfully through digitization. That's according to Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And that story was captured from was taken from the New Crusading Guide newspaper. So these are the stories that we have tabled for this morning's discussion. I'm privileged to have joining me here in the studios of Pan-African Television the former ambassador to the Republic of India. Good morning, sir. Many thanks for joining us. And of course, he usually sits in as the host, but today he is a panelist. I don't know, I'm trying to find adjectives. But Kwame Danso is also here as a panel on the show this morning. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Without further ado, let's zoom our focus into our first discussion for the morning, our African story. We are heading straight to Sudan. I'll read excerpts of the story as captured by the Daily Guide newspaper. It says, a Sudanese protester was killed Wednesday as thousands rallied against last year's military coup on the anniversary of previous popular uprisings, most recently against autocrat Omar al-Bashir 3 years ago. The 19-year-old was hit by a bullet fired by coup forces during the crackdown on the demonstrations in eastern Khartoum, the Independent Central Committee of Sudan doctors said. His death brings to 94 the death toll from the crackdown on anti-coup protests since the October 25 military coup led by Army Chief Abdel Fattah el-Burhan. The committee said security forces fired tear gas at demonstrators in the capital, Khartoum, its twin city of Omdurman, and in Wad Madani to the south. Witnesses and AFP correspondents said they also stormed Al-Jawda Hospital and fired tear gas inside, scaring patients and health workers and causing suffocation among some of them. Sudan has been reeling from deepening unrest since its latest coup that has derailed a political transition period and hammered the economy of one of the world's poorest countries. Pro-democracy activists had warned online of a people power earthquake of April 6, a momentous day in Sudan's history that was key in bringing down earlier strong men. So this is the story as captured by the Daily Guide newspaper. I'll begin with His Excellency Ambassador Sampi Ali on this particular issue.
Sudan is a very sad one because for the past 45 years or so, the citizens of Sudan have not known peace. You remember the infamous war that eventually led to the separation of the Sudan into Northern Sudan and Southern Sudan. The question is, if you know that was the answer, now, after Omar Bashir himself coming to power through the coup d'etat, the same stream, then he started another era of intimidation of the opponent, jail sentences, and I've seen a video where the former Minister for Finance was kept beneath a mosque, under a mosque, and had no light for over 10 years. And the man had grown into some kind of an animal. He was released. No, it was Bangladesh. When we had an Indian Africa summit, and I met Omar Bashir, and he appeared even more spiritual than the human being because of the ornaments he had worn, the Muslim, whatever it is. And Chief, the opulence. If you looked at his contingent, the fleet of vehicles, I mean, you could see that this man from a country with riches. But then you switch on your phone, all you see is hungry-looking children. Yeah. So what is African leaders looking for? They have, over the years, suppressed their people through intimidation, armor cars, whatever. But the people don't seem to get it, that you cannot use force, brute force, to contain us. You understand what I'm saying? Sudan is not a poor country at all, if you look at the resources they have. But it appears that some colonial powers, you know, have their feet well grounded in Sudan for their own parochial interest than the interest of Sudanese getting what they should get. You know, today when they go and sign a peace accord, the following week someone will say, no, we don't agree. Now, if you look at the sophisticated weaponry that they are using, none of this weaponry is being manufactured in Africa, even in Africa, much more in Sudan. So who is sponsoring this endless nonsense? There was Omar Bashir, and the popular crowd, popular people said, we don't like you. And fortunately, his was not through a military coup d'etat, all right? It was through popular uprising. Then, when they are celebrating it, the current government also now cramped down on them, killing one person. You know, I am sure that African leaders have decided not to be who they are. They are in there just to enrich themselves. You see the Congo, for example, is one of the richest countries on the surface of the earth. When Belgium annexed it, they have made sure that Congo will never have peace. Congo will never have peace because of what they get. In historical times, one of their rulers bought Congo as if it was his private property. And if you go to Leopold, yeah. If you go to Congo now, you will see an airport deep inside the forest, which is supposed to be the home of Mobutu Sese Seko. All right. Today, as I speak, aircraft, even though the airport is disused, aircraft land there. For what? They bring guns and take gold, cobalt, copper away. And since in the middle of it, in the middle of the forest, nobody sees it. Why are we doing this to ourselves, Africans? Why are we doing this to ourselves? My worry is the failure of the African Union project. You know, the African Union project. Sudan is Khartoum is very close to Ethiopia. And Ethiopia is where we have the African Union, not so. So why haven't they even placed an African Union force to contain the situation? For how long would African leaders stay and watch millions of Sudanese killed? Until when? You know, that is my worry. That forever the African continent had never seen peace. Not because of what the people themselves have done, but because of what the leaders continue to inflict on them. That's my worry. And they meet at AU, talk long, big English, and come back and laugh. You know, my prayer is that this thing too will not keep long. This murder of the young people. You know, the African leaders, let me finally say this. We are refusing to note that the future of these countries and whatever we are doing belong to the youth. They just simply refuse to know. I was a young man, Kwame, when I started politics. I was a very young man, very active like you. Now I'm growing. Is that not the case? No. My children have become lawyers and others, lawyers and not doctors. They are filling my vacuum. So no African leader should ever think that you'll be there forever. No matter how you change the constitution several times, your time will come and you leave. But unfortunately, we are mortgaging the future of our youth, leaving them with nothing but hopelessness. So today, an African can decide that I will walk about 2,000 kilometers across the desert, come what may, just to go to Europe, What is in Europe that we cannot also do here? What is in Europe? Spain. Now, this morning I was seeing that we are even importing maize from Canada. And Ireland, a country of ice. And a country of ice, we are importing maize from them. What is it that our leaders don't get right? That our youth are so despondent, they want to travel outside. Our youth are prepared to be killed on the street, fighting for democracy. What is it? Take the case of our own country. We have a system where some classes are untouchable, right? Some classes are untouchable, and others are forever condemned to poverty. And when you get up, oh yes, we are giving you NAPCO. The people who say NAPCO, that you have saved some people with NAPCO, is that the employment they will seek for their own children?
That's a good question.
Is that employment they will seek for their own children? That a graduate will come and stand in the middle of the road directing traffic? What has happened to all his agri he has learned? What has happened to the civil engineering he has learned? What all these Ghana, Kwame, I am saying that we are sitting on a time bomb of the youth. Do you know why? I'm not an advocate of violence, no. But then, as you turn out free senior high school, you turn them out into universities, and now they cannot even pay their fees. I hear 1,000 students of tech are saying that they are going to defer their courses because of inability to pay fees. And even if they are able to pay the fees and go through the course, what kind of employment have we generated for them? All we are doing are fanciful things. 1D, 1F, planting for food and jobs. Fanciful slogans and wasting people's money. What is happening in Sudan is not anything to write home about. And I'm calling on African leaders. It has become very clear that the Sudanese leadership itself is not interested in solving the problem. Look, and if it was in Kwame Nkrumah's time, we know what would have happened. It's time the African leaders called the Sudanese authorities to order that they are the problem. It's not the youth who are the problem. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. Let me turn my attention to Kwame Danso.
Well, thank you. Good morning, Bless. Special good morning to our cherished viewers. Even though I love to host a show, sometimes it's right that I also add my voice to issues happening on the continent and in Ghana. Now, if you read reports, it is clear that the people who are in Sudan are particularly not happy about how the military has conducted themselves after they took over power. Now, what actually even led to the military takeover was actuated or necessitated by the demands of the people for a change. Because Omar al-Bashir, in their own estimation, was not acting in ways which was to bring about development and to encourage the Sudanese people to fully benefit from the resources that they are endowed with. Now, it has been lingering on, from October 2025. It's been a matter that has been lingering on for some time now. I don't know when we are going to deal with this particular nuance. But what brought about this shootings is the fact that the people in South Sudan have consistently, without fail, impressed upon the military junta to return power to a civilian leader. And if you would recall, there were discussions about forming a transitional team, which team will superintend over the transfer of power from the military leadership to the civilian leadership. And that obviously did not see the light of day.
Yeah.
And so the people obviously not being happy about the deliberate attempt by the military to continue to hold on to power have decided to also not give them peace. They have demonstrated their disquiet, they have demonstrated their displeasure about how things have turned out. Because they, in their estimation, are saying that, to begin with, it was not initiated by the military. It was initiated by the people. And if, by reason of that, you have taken control of the levers of government, and on the basis of that, we are telling you that you need to hand over power to a civilian leader, you must heed to our call. But obviously, it is the one who enjoys power who knows the beauty of it. When they are sitting on the fence, they like to always criticize. When they've not been in leadership positions, they always like to criticize. But when they find themselves there, then they want to entrench their rule, because they know the benefits of being in power, and they know what attendant benefits they get from staying in power. So they try as much as possible to, keep themselves in there, to stay in power, and to control the, activities of governance, etc., etc., etc. Now, this recent incident which happened in South Sudan was as a result of, like I indicated before, the consistent, disagreement and some pro-democracy groups thronging to their seat of government, burning ties, calling for the restoration of democracy, etc., etc. And in retaliation, they fired live ammunition into the crowd. And that is how come 2 people lost their lives. Now, what was their demand in doing that? Their demand was that you have arrested some people who were heralding the transition from the military or militarism to a civilian order. Release those people, because those people have not committed any crime. If anything at all, those people are the ones who are leading the conversation, such that we will be able to smoothly transition from the military takeover to a civilian rule. So that was their call. That was their demand. And they were met with brute force and resistance. And the result of same is what we are experiencing. Now, it begs the question as to whether or not, and it appears more like a cliche now, because it has been something that we have rehashed and spoken about on several occasions at any given opportunity, that it appears AU has not been able to address these matters when they come up. And it's unfortunate. The AU must be seen to be very proactive. The AU must be seen to be dealing with the plights of the ordinary people within the African continent. And so if it happens that when the AU cautions military leaders and they do not heed to the call or the demand, by AU to restore the country to a civilian rulership, then what is the function really of AU? That means that AU does not have any respect or any recognition. That for me is injurious to the call for the unification of Africa. Because in my own estimation, AU should have been spearheading, this call for one continent, this call for the unification of Africa, this call for intra-African trade, for instance, intra-African, deals or dealings. So clearly, something must give. But you see, you might think on a face value that this is just a military coup d'etat which has occasioned, and obviously which the people are resisting. But you would find latently that behind this, military takeover is the long arm or the long hands of the West. Now, I've seen reports where UAE, Britain, and United States are calling for, ceasefire, and are calling on the military leaders to restore the country to democracy or democratic rule, which calls have not been heeded to. But you find that they are the direct beneficiaries of these actions and omissions. So, in the final analysis, who suffers? And oftentimes I've opined that if we don't begin to look beyond the parochiality of our interests as leaders of our various countries, the end result is what we are experiencing. And if you check, and I think that this was spoken of by a friend when I was transiting in Kenya, a South African friend of mine. We're having a conversation about Africa, the unification of Africa, and what we can all do to ensure that we experience it, at least in our lifetime. And he indicated to me that he's unsure that it's ever going to happen. And that he was prophesying that subsequent years will bring in its wake a lot of coup d'etats across the African continent. And he cited specific reasons: hunger, huge disparity between the elite and the ordinary people, lack of proper democratic practices, even though we have our own definitions and differences as to what democracy is, because Paul Kagame will tell you democracy is not what is defined by the West. Democracy is what works for the people. But what works for the people must necessarily be experienced and felt by the people, and there must be a result from those practices.
Right.
So if you say you practice democracy, like for instance in Ghana, we've had the occasion to question whether or not indeed what we are practicing here is true democracy. In the wake of the 2016 elections, in the wake of the 2020 elections, and elections that we've had in the past, whether or not those experiences defines what democracy is. Because if democracy is to ensure smooth transition of power from one political party to the other, without recourse to hooliganism, for instance, without recourse to breaching and breaking the provisions of the Constitution, then if it happens that we've had to resort to political hooliganism and buccaneering actions of some political elites to hold on to power, or to refuse other political parties from assuming their position as leaders of the next government, then we are not practicing democracy. If it is the case that in the estimation of many, that one political party, upon assuming power, will come and close down voices of dissent. By voice of dissent, I mean radio stations and TV stations that are opposed to that political party. Then the question becomes, what kind of democracy are we practicing? So people think that it is far-fetched, and it is indeed far-fetched in Ghana to ever experience another military takeover or coup d'etat by reason of several factors. One perhaps may be because we have American military bases here, and they would want to intervene, when some of these things come up. But I consistently have said that if you look at our country, Ghana, the democracy that we are experiencing is not by reason of a deliberate attempt by any leader or any political party to want to ensure the continuity, the survival, and the sustenance of that democracy. It is because the people of Ghana have decided and have resigned themselves to appreciating the fact that the peaceful enjoyment of our country is what you know we should all ask for, and that is why, in my estimation, we're enjoying because people are not saying that all the material conditions, we prevailed at a time when we were involved or neck deep in all of these military takeovers are still rife today. If you're talking about corruption, corruption is there. If you're talking about lack of employment, it is there. So, what we are experiencing under normal circumstances should have paved way for some, military takeover. But the people themselves, we the people of Ghana, have decided that by hook or crook, we will just stay in there. At least 4 years will come, and then we'll go to the polls and change the political party in power. However, if it gets to a point where the people feel that even that opportunity that they have to change the political baton is taken away from them, then what do you want them to do? If institutions of state are acting in ways which are at variance with the core values and principles of democracy, then what do you want the people to do? If you find that every day there are growing numbers of people on the streets of Accra begging for money, wiping screens, and I'm sure Mariwade has been experiencing that. People wiping screens. And they are ages between 5, 6, 7, 8, 10.
Very young, yeah.
Wiping the screens of people on the streets of Accra just to earn an income. And the numbers are growing. It tells you clearly that the economic, scientific definition of what employment is or is not what it is on the ground.
Right.
And that on the ground, clearly, people are struggling. So we must, in the final analysis, come to a concrete decision and arrive at a solution which solution can work for all. And in this case, going back to Sudan, I believe that the people should not renege. The people should not quail. The people should not allow themselves to be subjugated. They must continue to fight for what is right. They must continue to fight for what they believe in. They must continue to fight so that they can get themselves out of the shackles of this military dictatorship. Because that is not what they fought for. That is not what they envisaged when they decided to take out Omar al-Bashir. Indeed, what they envisaged was to have a country that will allow for free speech, that will allow for people to go about their businesses without let or hindrance, that would allow for a person who lives in the village in Sudan to ascend to become a greater person. And that would allow for everybody to get the opportunity to go about their normal businesses and earn an income for themselves. And on the basis of that, I'm still calling on the Sudanese people to continue to fight until some victory is achieved.
It's achieved. Thank you so much, Kwame Owusu. So, good morning, Chairman Omariwari.
Good morning, my brother.
It's been a minute. It's been a while.
Yes.
And I don't want to say how much I suffered, to get you here today.
He's going for national chairman.
I beg you, drop me.
But this morning we are discussing Sudan and the fact that since October 25th there's been crackdown on anti-coup protesters, and up to 94 of them have tragically lost their lives in that regard. So I'd want you to opine on this particular issue, the issue in Sudan, and by extension, if looking at what is happening here, we have or we share similar concerns, or we could share similar concerns in future.
Well, thank you and good morning to my colleague panelists and viewers. Where he ended, the Sudanese people should continue to fight till victory is achieved. I don't know what he calls victory in this situation. That the military people are driven out and democracy is restored, or the military, like happened in Ghana, change their clothes and become civilians, and become president or what. But I think Africa, Sudan, and for that matter, Africa, we've gone through a lot. Ghana, we are where we are because ours started early. And at one point, we realized that those things will not help anybody. From the time of Kwame Nkrumah, through Buzia, through Achampong, Liman, all these we have seen before. Coup leaders will come and argue that there is corruption. And by the time they leave office, they themselves are wealthier than the nation. Coup leaders will come and argue that there are no jobs for the youth. And the youth uprising, youth will rise up. Yeah, we follow them. At the end of the day, we become poorer. Coup leaders will come and say people are mismanaging our economy, state-owned institutions. At the end of the day, the state-owned institutions collapse. And the workers who were there, who were agitating, who wanted high pay, high rise, they on the pension fund, whatever, the company collapses. And the workers become unemployed. I know for a fact, Railway Workers Union, if you know how powerful they were, they could go on strike. Then when the coup comes, they follow them. Hey, we want to, hey, really, pine, collapse. And where were the workers? The leadership, the Railway the Workers Union. Same, in most of these institutions that collapsed. GNTC, the last time I passed there, if this powerful institution, this powerful state enterprise, where is it? Gone. All because of, I know we're manufacturing, there were several companies that Sajifo, Kwame Nkrumah set up, and all because of these supposed corruption in these institutions and workers' agitations and banding, and we no go sit down. You no go sit down before you realize the company collapse. You are home. We've seen it all. That is why we, as a nation, yes, there are still people who think they can also go through same. I mean, recently you have heard about some arrests and people posting that there should be a change of constitution and all that. They still think we are still fools. But you and I know that there's this popular phrase that I have forgotten, but it goes like, the people agitating and saying, I can't quote it verbatim, that they should be changed, that they should be there because they are corruption. They are the worst people. When they get there, they will be worse. It's a very popular Nigerian, I don't know if you remember that one. They are just waiting worse. And they will use the people, in the name of the people. Ghana, they will make all this again. We thank God that we saw these things earlier. Sudan's issue, I will be frank. I always want to use a local example. There once was a party called CPP, now fragmented. PPP came out of it, GCPP, all the PPs, PNC, they were all ones. Even some members of the NDC. And I've always been arguing, if these bunch of these people, these political parties come together, they can one day win power. And they themselves know. But why are they not coming together? Interest, self-interest. I'm the General Secretary of PNC. You say we should merge with PCPP or PPP. Who then becomes the General Secretary? Then let everybody enjoy, sit where he is. I'm the General Secretary of the Chairman of CPP. The original name is CPP. So if you are coming, then come. Just dissolve yours and join. And they are there like, same as Sudan. And because of this fragmentation, they will continue fighting. They're able to organize one region or hold, and whatever you tell them, you can't bring them together. And because of that, people will always, they will always be used. There will always be this conflict. Until they themselves, at a point, realize the need. Until they themselves, at a point, see that nobody can do for them better, anything better than they themselves. They will continue fighting. And people will always use them. If you say you wouldn't allow yourself to, you wouldn't come together, you wouldn't merge, you wouldn't begin to think together, come bring yours, put mine, and let's have one big, strong team, and they will be used. And there are people who benefit from this conflict. There are people who, because they know they are benefiting, will also make sure they finance all the sites. So you keep fighting. So they can keep benefiting. Local interest, foreign interest, coming from all angles. And truly, because you also want to be big and also want to enjoy that small political party or that group you have formed, you go to Ukraine, you go to Russia, you go to China, China will give. Because China is also taking some things from there. And will give this, be supporting the bigger. And before you realize, you are same where you are. I can put that to what is happening in Ukraine now. Big brother, bullying, attempting to take what is not his. That's me how I see it. Me how I see it.
How you see it?
Says insecurity, they are trying to join NATO. If you join NATO and nobody you don't commit any, who will? As Russia has this superpower, nuclear. I think they have the largest or second largest nuclear. Who attack? Who in his right? Even as they are fighting, people don't want to join. Now everybody is thinking of how to survive, how to live, how to grow, how to expand, how to develop. I don't know about you. Yes, obviously there are always people who are thinking of Jimboni, who are thinking of evil. But majority of the people in the world are thinking of how to survive, how to grow, how to... Yes, power is important. But what you use power for is what matters. If we as a nation have learned these lessons, I think we should find ways to inform, get the younger generations, let them understand, especially you who have seen at least 2 or 3 coups, how they happen. Just study them, just read about them, and the same pattern. And when those who are agitating and saying they can do better, that people follow, when they come, they are worse. I recently met one gentleman who was leading those days agitator when Jerry John Rawlings took over, before they took over and when they took over. I saw him And he said, we have been used. I said, don't worry. And unfortunately, he's getting old now. And he was telling us about what they believed and how they championed things wholeheartedly going in. Later they got to know that and they became victims themselves. They became enemies of the revolution because they attempted to suggest that what was going on wasn't right. Me, I didn't see it all. At least 79, I was just about 7, 8 years. But I have read about it. I have. Why did they why did they remove Nkrumah? And then Afrifa, Buzia, Achampong. And then we don't go sit down, make them cheaters. Every day we heard all that. And then every day, those who no go sit down were chased out by those who they were following. Some of them, most of them, even as at now, some of them are still in exile. The killings that went on because of some bitterness or enviness or supposed I don't know what happened. It's better we look at what we have, see how we can manage what we have, and improve on our situation, your personal situation. We also like blaming, like it's happening in Sudan. Instead of looking within, you look at what is happening outside. Like my dad will always say, Obi you are not so high. If a by four is doing you, you also do the by four some. Why do you always think that somebody is why the white man is manipulating why do you allow yourself to be manipulated? You don't blame anybody for anything. It's about you. It's about the people. We want to fix ourselves, yes. But almost always, people will attempt to manipulate situations and systems to their advantage. But you may become the victim. You may think when they come, your life will be better, will improve. Sometimes the improvement that you are expecting will become a bigger curse. Me, I thank God for where we are as a nation and what we have seen. And I wish that those who saw it themselves with their own eye, all these coups and the issues these coup leaders raised, will come and tell Ghanaians so we can start reasoning and thinking. Sudan has gone through a lot and is still going through a lot. That's not the only nation. You mentioned DRC, other places. It's the people who allow themselves to be manipulated. Thank God where we are. And I pray that we all, as young people, as old people, will put our thoughts together and see how we can improve and build on what we have. It is never, I don't know any nation that said they fought, they had a coup, and because of that they have progressed. No.
Right.
Every advancing nation went through at the point they are where they are, that you want to go there. We can also do it.
Right.
We have the mineral resources, we have the power, and we have you too also. Let's think of how positively think how to develop and advance our nation, and Ghana will do well.
Thank you so much, Chairman Omarewadi. You're still watching the morning show, Good Morning Africa, the newspaper review segment. If you just join us, let's go for a short breather. When we return, we'll be discussing a very interesting topic, Ghana's judiciary to stay.
Hello, information.
Madam.
Me, I have still not got the money for that list of expensive building materials you sent to me. The price of the iron rods have been increased too much, are they?
Madam, relax. Look, that's not why I did call you. I just visited IPCP, where the engineers told me everything about Trasacco fast floor.
Trawanko, please, those people are expensive. Are they not the people building those big houses in town? I beg those guys.
Madam, in fact, I used to think the same until I visited their office today, and they gave me an estimate of how much it will cost. Yomo, the estimate is free. It's cheaper than the one I even sent you.
Wow.
Building contractors, foremen, masons. Visit IPCP, the Trasacco Fast Floor. Engineers will assist you build an affordable, faster and stronger building.
Oh, madam. It is done.
Wow.
Trasacco Fast Floor. Stronger, faster and affordable.
This is a Trasacco construction product.
Spend your Easter weekend at Ridge Royal Hotel, Second Reach, Cape Coast with loads of activities for both adults and children. Pay a discounted rate of only 700 Ghana cedis per room per night for double occupancy. On Good Friday, come enjoy a classic jazz night at the lounge with Egraph School of Music from 7 p.m. Holy Saturday will be great with their live to sing musical concert at the pool area with Voicastro Ghana, dubbed the Easter Experience. Easter Sunday is a family day out for everyone. Activities include bouncy castle, modeling balloon, face painting, trampoline jumping, free popcorn, cultural display, swimming, accompanied with a special brunch with yummy Easter dishes and great live band music. Easter Monday pool party with DJ Future will also come alive. Free for in-house guests, 50 cedis for adults and 30 cedis for kids. Side attraction, Chinese, Indian and Italian cuisines, and also featuring same day is a Made in Art exhibition by the Phelan Gallery. Truly, richly inviting and comfortably yours.
No, when anything comes.
Yeah, welcome back from that short breather. If you just joined us, you're watching the morning show, the newspaper review segment of Good Morning Africa. Very privileged to have me here in the studios. Ambassador Sam P. Yale, chairman of Mayawadi, and of course, Kwame Owusu Danso. Let's talk about a very interesting topic as captured by the Insight newspaper. It says, Supreme Court, Festus Abuaji says Apex Court's 7090 rulings too artificial. I repeat, Supreme Court, Festus Abuaji says Apex Court's 7090 rulings too artificial. And I'm very happy that I have two lawyers with me here to discuss this particular topic. The National Security Minister, Albert Kandapa, he has raised concerns about the judiciary, and he has said that confidence in the judiciary will be lost if interpretations always favor the government and the judiciary perceived to be biased is a big threat to national security. Now, these concerns have been also shared by Festus Abuaji, who is a security analyst. We know the situation with regards to our courts and, in fact, recent rulings. Let me quote Jeremy Bentham, an 18th century philosopher, on the issue of open court rule. He said that in the darkness of secrecy, sinister interest and evil in every shape are full swing, and that only in proportion as publicity has place can any of the checks applicable to judicial injustice operate. And he said, where there is no publicity, there is no justice. Publicity is the very soul of justice. It is the keenest spur to exertion and the surest of all guards against improbity. Now, this is the important part. He said it keeps the judge himself while trying under trial. And we've seen the recent rulings at the Apex Court. Is confidence in the judiciary waning, or is it that they are just doing their work? Let me start with Ambassador Sampi Ali on this particular issue.
Coup d'etats and revolutions in Africa, but a deep research come to the undebatable conclusion that our experiences that we went through has brought us to this status. Our experience. But for those experiences, we may not have reached this kind of status. You understand? So why people may have their base against the revolution that took place in Ghana, you know, I mean, I have my base against the Afrifa Kotoka coup d'etat. But you see, out of those experiences, we've gotten to where we are. The question is, are we learning from those experiences? That's, for me, is my beef. Now, it was Justice Taylor. I mean, I read a lot of his judgments, and Justice Francois, those good old lawyers, they situate law within the context of Ghana and common sense. I follow you what I'm saying. If you read Justice Taylor's jurisprudence, it has just not looked at who is right and just who is wrong. Even where he wants to talk about who is wrong, he will give you the underlying fundamentals as why the person must be wrong. Right? Now, it has virtually become a taboo in Ghana not to talk about the judiciary, because, well, as a lawyer, I'm restrained by my profession not to talk about lawyers, the judicial system in a bad way. I'm restrained. But Chief Justice Wood herself had occasion to talk about the corruption in the judiciary. There have been cases where judges, Anas, is it Anas or something?
Yeah.
Recently,
Number 12.
Yeah. Have shown that we don't have full, watertight judiciary. What is happening, which has attracted the attention of the security minister, and I think it's right that he said what he said. You know, where people lose hope in an ultimate body that's supposed to, give us peace and justice, then what happens? People then take the law into their own hands. Chief Omari, remember that during our time, that you were 7 years old, at that time I was a full participant. GEOC workers felt so peeved about the judiciary, and we all know what happened. We all know what happened. If you go in front of the Supreme Court judge, you see what happened, because some people felt that their interest was not being catered for. So having power to do something is different from using the power to do what is right and just. You understand what I'm saying? Now, today in Ghana, I am from the NDC. I am continuously feeling that we will never win any case in court. Continuously. Because if you do trend analysis, that has been the pattern. We believe that we will never win any case in court, because take it there, the result will not even be 5-4, whatever it is. It will be 7-0 or 9-0. And this is disturbing. Often, what Supreme Court judges have done is that when they give the ruling, they will want to give the reasons for the judgment. But in our case, they say we have given the ruling, judgment follows. So, do you know why judges are supposed to give the ruling in writing? Do you know why? Because we are in a field of continuous improvement. So when you give a judgment, a court of appeal judge can look at your judgment and say, you are wrong. That's the appeal system, you say that you are wrong. All right? When the Court of Appeal gives a decision, the Supreme Court can see it and say, you are wrong. So at least as we travel through the ladder of jurisprudence, we are getting satisfaction. But then when the apex court itself is seen, whether rightly or wrongly, I'm not the one to say, is seen to be tilted, in the words of my friend Kanadapa, that always in our favor. If a member of government, national security minister, says that if every day your judgment appear to be in our favor, then what can I say? If a security minister can say that, and the security minister is not just saying it to ridicule the Supreme Court. I don't think that was his intention, or that he was bringing a reality. But the reality is that by their measurement in this country, of the temperature in this country, that is a source of worry. Because we do not want to go back to the Amatekwe time. Nobody wants to do that. Kwame, you want to go there? No, nobody wants to go there. And therefore, justice should not be delivered, but it must be seen manifestly to be delivered. But we are lacking that. We seriously are lacking that. Today, a judge sitting in court, can enter into a banter with an accused person and tell him he's hallucinating. It is never heard, it should not be heard from any part in the judiciary. You follow what I'm saying? Yeah. An accused person has a right to say that I don't want Bless to be my judge, because I have seen Bless go with Kwame, who's my adversary. They are in the same church, and those of you in law school, you know this is the right of the accused person. It's the right of the accused person that if the accused person does not feel comfortable with the judge, he should be able to say it. But in our case, he says it, it goes to the Supreme Court overturns the judgment, and the same person, the same judge is there. That does not sit well with us. Bless. It is the first time in my life that I've heard that somebody insult or argues or whatever it is with the judge, and then he said for contempt. If the judge's conduct does not, sit well with the Chief Justice, whatever it is, all you do is transfer the case to another judge. But the contempt case must be heard. Just refer the matter to the Attorney General, and that's the end of it. Contempt. Right? Contempt. Let's look at recent cases. We the people say that justice emanates from us. We have a whole constituency of persons from Santrophy, Bulobi, Akpafo, and what? They have not been represented in Parliament for the past how many years? 5 years. 5 years. We struggle. How many?
The district was created in 2020.
Yeah, 2020. Yes. So
the past 5 years they were part of one.
But
only when the district
was created.
They demanded for a district. And government created a district for them.
But the electoral commissioner did not.
Yeah, but it was late for, because I think the district was created less than a month to the elections.
No. Mr. Wadi, my dear. Is it about time of creation or the right of the people to express themselves in Parliament? Haven't we passed many laws and the certificate of agency in this country?
But I mean, they even still voted in the presidential election.
It did vote in the presidential election. So, what I'm saying is that the Supreme Court ought to see this as an injustice to the people of Lolobi, Akpafu, and then they should see it. But the matter goes to court, and what has happened? But once the Supreme Court has ruled, where else are they taking it? So if the people of Akpafu, Lolobi, and those things take the law into their own hands, like Kandapa is afraid of, who is to be blamed? Are you following what I'm saying? Certain issues that are to be tried in with expedition, delays in our courts. I mean, the Chief Justice himself lamented the case that spent land case that spent about 40 years in court. 40 years in court over a land dispute. By the time the case is finished, somebody has taken the land. You know, so Albert Kandapa, as a national security minister, must have seen something, that if we don't do something about this perceived, you know, lack of justice coming from our Supreme Court, it will be dangerous for us. My friend Colonel Festus, he's the man in the security. You know, I mean, anyway, have you read the national security strategy? You know, if you take it and read it, all the flashpoints that can lead us to Sudan. Kwame, it is not that people are not interested in changes. We don't want the changes through the barrel of the gun. Yeah. But people are interested in changes. Are you following what I'm saying? Now, the Chief Justice is supposed to take judicial notice of everything that happens in this country, and on his own, Somoto, raise a case against it. What have the Chief Justice done about the 8 persons that were killed during the elections? What has happened to them? What has happened to Kaka and the family? Ejura, you remember recently, Ejura, the matter is in court. But is the trial what will give the family peace? No. Somebody is killed. The killing springs up other upheavals. When you set a committee, shouldn't the committee go into the root cause of the problem? Then they talk about something else. Today, the family of Kaka are always talking about injustice. We need peace. Now, anytime somebody has been killed and the family is interviewed, they don't ask for money. What do they ask for? We want justice. We want justice. I am a lawyer. I have been to Nsawam prisons several times. Now, when you go and you see somebody that is in prison for the past 10, 15 years, on remand, just on remand, either because the bail terms, nobody has been able to fulfill the bail terms. So 10 years is in Nsawam prison's custody. What was his crime? Defilement, stealing, petty crimes. You know, should that not attract the attention of the Chief Justice? And say that we as a country, as a head of judiciary, we are perpetuating injustice against some of our own people. Never mind. Have you seen pictures of people in the prisons? Come, have you seen them? Millions. I mean, this small room can contain about 100 people. Human beings packed together like that. When they are sleeping, there's somebody standing there and said, turn right. Then all of them will turn right. Because of space. Is that justice? Are they not Ghanaians? You know, we have a right to do anything, say anything. But what we are not doing is we don't do the right thing as a country.
Right.
And then if the justice system is also going this way, then we have a problem.
Then we have a problem. Thank you so much. Let me come to Chairman Omayowadia on this particular issue. Is Ghana's judiciary becoming excessively partisan? And if I say excessively partisan, I mean we've seen recent rulings, especially in the 2020 election petition case. We've seen the voting right of the speaker case, and we've seen how it has played out. Is it becoming excessively partisan?
Well, let me start from where my big brother left off. I would say, depending on where you stand, there is a story of 3 people seeing elephants. One saw the tail, says it was as huge as a snake. One saw the the side. You see, depending on where you stand, there are people who were killed. Sometimes I call them murdered during the revolution. They took them to a court which was later referred to as a kangaroo court. And at the end of the day, sentenced, shot, dead. Those who were lucky spent time in some other prisons. We have come far. Now we have all embraced democracy. And it comes with its, well, we have the rules and laws governing what we want to do. But the laws, the interpreters of the law, they say you are the lawyers. They say
the law rests in the bosom of the
judge. Yeah. Now, a minister who is in charge of national security goes on. Actually, he was actually addressing judges. Fortunately, media men were there, and tell them this perception. I mean, if you can quote what he said.
It says, confidence in the judiciary will be lost if interpretation always favors the government.
It's perceived.
And the judiciary perceived to be biased is a big threat to national security.
Perception, yeah. Perceived. It could be, they could be doing what is right. But because it did not go your way, and that's what happens in, you are a lawyer, you have been going to court. When you lose cases, your clients get angry. I mean, lawyers are best known what I'm talking about. Sometimes they make wild allegations even against their lawyers. Kodisika, you saw him talking to the other lawyer. Why did they do that? I mean, it happens. If I'm lying, tell me. That is the fact that, and sometimes they forget that they are friends. They were they were all in law school, Ghana law school. They were sometimes classmates. And they don't want to see their lawyer talking to the opponent's lawyer. And they will make these wild allegations which may not be true. Perception. Immediately you look at the case, I told you, let's change the lawyer. Meanwhile, you knew, and you were rather fighting for them, but their case wasn't that good. It wasn't that strong. Perception. I have not heard of anybody who's gone to a court, whether no matter the level, even to the Supreme Court, and lost, that comes home and celebrate. You come home and, why did I lose? And you start looking at why somebody was talking to somebody and perception. You create your own. Nobody loses a case and get excited. And the man says, losing or winning cases for us may get people perceiving that you are working for us, and that brings insecurity. We all have to find a way. I mean, the man, I've heard one lawyer also argue that he is trying to tell the judges that if it's A, because it will be seen as, this case, you are always winning cases, you should say the judges should do or rule. No, I've heard that argument too. Even if, no matter how bad the case is. He's telling the judges that when you give this 1-1, give this 1-1. That is also somebody's argument. But me, I know, I'm not a lawyer though, that the independence of the judiciary, even the Chief Justice cannot go to any court and give orders, no matter how low the court is. True or false? False? That they can go and say, do this case like this. In the court, while the court is sitting.
The Chief Justice orders will be more than one. Do this. But you can say that this case should be given to this lawyer, this judge. That one he does it. You know, this case must be given to this judge. And maybe sometimes Court of Appeal judge descending to become a High Court judge. So after those orders, he can give it.
But as to whether dictate to them how to rule, how to.
Come on, have you heard your own friend Asasare? You know him?
I know.
Asasare.
I know.
Have you listened to him?
That
the Supreme Court judges are not independent. Have you heard him say? Have you heard him say that?
They are not independent.
Yes. Have you heard him say? You have heard it.
It is called.
Yes.
It is. That's what I'm discussing now. Perception.
Perception. Right.
He has probably seen the Supreme Court judge visiting.
There was this assumption that the judges, the judgment were being written in the castle. You remember that one also?
That is perception. It has happened and happened and happened. But what depends on where you sit. That's why I was arguing about the lawyer and their clients. I don't know whether you've taken a case to court before or you've been sent to court before. You, after you win, hey, your lawyer is the best lawyer. If you lose, sometimes you feel like a friend died, was killed, murdered. Lawyer Blay, Tema. Why? Because Blay, this nice lawyer. Upon investigation, he went to somebody. He was a criminal court lawyer. Somebody, he went to stand in for somebody, and then he lost. He went to his own prison. He came back, and then says he saw him with the whoever. So he suspects that he took something, for that's why he was sentenced. Something like that. It happens. And sometimes I pity lawyers. And sometimes the threats, if you can speak the truth, lawyers themselves, that they get from their clients. But fortunately, there are checks and balances. Your quote, that's why I like it. I can't do as you did, though.
Yeah, that was superb.
But the judge himself, as he's trying, as he's writing, is being judged. And then today, because of media, you are there. Every day, whatever you do can come out. And we have the analysis too watching. So it is these checks and balances. And I think the minister was drawing their attention that just find a way, because he as the minister cannot dictate to the judiciary, that we can make this perception go away. How to let people know the truth, the fairness in their ruling, and that will not create a national security problem for him, because he handles national security.
Right.
I don't think, yes, I have some challenges with his words though. I have some challenges. Because it will be like...
You disagree with some of his assertions?
Yes, because, no, I mean, if we are not careful, and you sit where I sit, you are telling the judges that when somebody brings a case, no matter how bad it is, when you give government one, you give opposition one. I don't know, I don't think that will work. They should apply the rules or the laws judiciously. That's all. That's what I believe should happen.
Right. Thank you so much. Kwame Owusu Danso, Chairman of Omarewa talks about the fact that perception is important. Now, people also say that justice should be administered in such a way that even if you lose, you know that you have lost fairly. Now, the general perception now, to some extent, is that the judiciary is, is to some extent biased, which, of course, the National Security Minister is saying or shares, similar sentiments.
Some people perceive.
No, but the greater chunk of the populace feel that. You understand? The greater chunk of the populace feel that, yes. So Kwame Owusu, so please, you have the floor, and then I'd want your humble, opinion on this particular matter.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I've listened to my two big panelists speak quite eloquently on this subject matter. And let me state here and now that perception is one of the ingredients of assessing the performance or otherwise of anybody. Perception. So perception is very, very important in making a determination as to whether or not somebody is acting in ways which is at variance with the Constitution or which is in support of the Constitution. Now, it's important to state that Lord Denning says something. Okay, he actually said two things. One, that justice is rooted in confidence. And confidence is destroyed if one party leaves the courtroom thinking the judges were biased. And that justice must not only be seen to be done, it must be manifestly and undoubtedly be seen to be done. I do not want to speak by myself. I would want to refer to the code of conduct of judges, because that is what will determine whether or not the perceptions that people have about the performance of the duties bestowed upon the judges by the Constitution, which emanates from the people, has been upheld in higher standards, or, like you said, is waning. This is judicial.gov.gh, Code of Conduct for Judges and Magistrates. Rule 1, upholding the integrity and independence of the judiciary. An independent and honorable judiciary is indispensable to justice in our society. A judge should maintain and enforce high standards of conduct and should personally observe those standards so that the integrity and independence of the judiciary is preserved. Commentary. Respect for the judgment and rulings of the courts. Listen. Forget your social media. Forget your social media. Listen. Respect for the judgment and rulings of the court depend upon public confidence in the integrity and independence of judges. The integrity and independence of judges depend in turn upon their acting without fear and favor. Although judges should be independent, they must comply with the law, including provisions of this code. Public confidence in the impartiality of the judiciary is maintained by the adherence of each judge to this responsibility. Conversely, violation of this code diminishes public confidence. Rule 1, upholding the integrity and independence of the judiciary. Perception plays a very important role. How else would you be able to determine whether or not judges are upholding their integrity and independence? It is as a result of a number of cases which have been decided upon by those judges, which cases in the final analysis will speak to you as to whether or not the judges are independent or are not independent. Let's move on to Rule 2. Avoiding impropriety and the perception of impropriety in all of the judges' activities. Appearance. So once somebody appears to be acting in ways that can be described as impropriety, then there's a problem. So it says, a judge shall respect and comply with the law and should act at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence. Now, the first rule and the second rule talks about public confidence. Why? Public confidence is a very important ingredient which defines the actions and inactions of judges and which determines whether or not they are acting in ways which bolster confidence. So it is very, very important. Public confidence in the integrity and the impartiality of the judiciary. Commentary. Public confidence in the judiciary is eroded by irresponsible or improper conduct by judges. How do you determine that a judge has been irresponsible? Perception. By the way he conducts himself or herself. By the way in which they adjudicate matters. By the way in which they make a determination on matters which are axiomatic. So people will only people will only perceive, like for instance, Honorable Omariwa they are seated here. People have perceptions about him. But it is left to him to disprove the perceptions that people have about him. But as for the perception, people will have it. You cannot stop anybody from perceiving that Honorable Omariwa there maybe is an arrogant person, for instance. Do you understand what I'm saying? That is human nature, perception. Very important. Listen. A judge, absolutely. No, that is why I'm saying that. But me having that perception, right? So when I get closer to you or not, your actions and inactions, if you occupy a public space, and the law expects you to do 1, 2, 3, everybody knows that. That's what the law says. And you fail to do that 1, 2, 3, my personal relationship with you cannot overrule the fact that you have failed to comply with the law. That's what it is. So you may in person be a very nice person. And of course, we know some of the judges. My uncle, once upon a time, was a judge. May his soul rest in peace. Justice Jaisayo. I used to go to, that's my uncle, yes. I used to go to his home every single time. In fact, the day before he died, he wanted me to come home. So I know judges, and I know how they are supposed to behave. So ask him, Justice Jaisayo, yes. Yes, Wafakujo. Paul Kujo Jaisayo. That's his name. Yes.
I remember that very well.
Yes, that's my uncle.
It was that hard.
And in fact, once upon a time, I asked him, so uncle, so if I came before you in court, me, I'll laugh. He'll jail you. No, that's what he said. I said, no, I mean, as in a lawyer. And I'm in front of you.
You laugh.
Also, Kwame, I told him, ask for me, I'll laugh. He said, you will laugh. Even the way I'll make my face there, you will even laugh. Or I would have to recuse myself. He said that. You see, so we know judges. And we know how they conduct themselves. Now, I am doing this so that we are able to take out emotions and deal with the substantive matters. Perception, very important. Now, it goes on to say that a judge must avoid all impropriety and appearance of impropriety. A judge must expect to be the subject of constant public scrutiny. A judge must therefore accept restrictions on the judge's conduct that might be viewed as burdensome by the ordinary citizen. So that is what it is. So don't act in ways which will create the impression that you have been compromised. That is what the code, their own code, though. That's why I'm saying that I don't want to, speak from any other material. I'm speaking from their own code of conduct. Now let me skip because there is a lot. Okay? Let me skip to this very important part. I think that's 5. 5. A judge shall perform judicial duties without bias or prejudice. A judge shall not, in the performance of judicial duties, by words or conduct, manifest bias or prejudice, including but not limited to bias or prejudice based upon race, sex, religion, national origin, ethnicity, disability, age, sexual orientation, or socioeconomic status, and shall require court personnel and others not to do so. Commentary. A judge must refrain from speech, gestures, or any other conduct that could reasonably be perceived, as evidencing bias or prejudice, and must require the same standard of conduct of others subject to the judge's direction and control, including those who are directly involved in courtroom proceedings. A judge must perform judicial duties impartially and fairly. A judge who manifests any bias or prejudice in a proceeding impairs the fairness of the proceedings and brings the judiciary into disrepute. Facial expression and body language, in addition to oral communications, can give to parties or lawyers in the proceedings, jurors, the media, and others an appearance of judicial bias. A judge must be alert to avoid behavior that may be perceived as biased or prejudicial. So, it is in their code of conduct. So, if you find Honorable Kandapa vis-a-vis, what's his name?
Festus Abuaje.
Festus Abuaje.
Colonel Festus Abuaje, retired.
Perceptually raise these matters, it finds expression in logic. Because clearly they are not speaking out of context. That's what I'm saying. They're not speaking out of context. It finds expression in the rules of engagement for our judges. I am not saying, because I have not had the occasion to experience it firsthand, whether or not any judge has been biased against me. No. But it is also the case that in many instances, particularly with respect to matters relating to the NDC and the MPP, the perception which is here has been that the judges have been biased. And that the public confidence is fast eroding by reason of the actions and omissions of the judges. That is why their code of conduct is quite clear that in matters which is before the court, their body language, their gestures, the way they communicate must not give doubt about the competencies and the impartiality of judges. And that it must not at all create the impression that I will not get justice in this court. That is why I want to end again by the quote of Lord Denning, that justice is rooted in confidence, and confidence is destroyed if people leave the courtroom thinking the judges were biased. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chairman, Ambassador, anything you want to add?
I wanted to cite, cases in which judgment have been given on perception. You understand? So we have circumstantial evidence, which are in the main perceptions. You understand what I'm saying? Now, like Kwame is saying, if a judge in his ruling say that this was to create loot and share for the party, I'm paraphrasing, could the judgment not have been delivered without that phrase? Are you following what I'm saying? Now, today in Ghana, what is becoming even dangerous, very, very dangerous, is that we have NDC lawyers and then MPP lawyers. Dangerous. Dangerous. So, when there's a Supreme Court case between the NDC and MPP, you see about 30 to 40 lawyers on the MPP side. And the Chief Justice had given an instruction that for each case there should be a judge, a lawyer and his assistant too. We don't worry, because as long as our law is right, we are right. But you see, these are some of the pockets of perceptions that gets to everybody's head. And I have told you that I dread the result of perception. I really dread it as a Ghanaian, not as a lawyer, but as a Ghanaian, I dread it because of the Jihawk case. I dread it. As long as people don't feel confident in the judiciary, who are we? Are you following what I'm saying? So, Kandapa's perception ought not to be trivialized. No, at all. Because it's not coming from Sampi Yali. It's coming from the National Security Coordinator. I said that this is a threat. And the worst part of it is to say that, oh, and then if the judgment always goes in our favor. Chief, do you get the import of what I'm saying? If the judgment always comes, I'm not the one saying it. If the judgment always comes into our favor, is the judiciary being manipulated? Are the judges doing what is to be done so that Kandapa himself can perceive that they are doing something that comes to the favor of the government all the time? You know, what is the Chief Justice, for example, doing about the Owusu case? Where a court has tried, I mean, a committee of inquiry have tried these people and found out that some people must be punished in accordance with the law. Who implements that? Me. I say that as a lawyer, sometimes I go to court with the fear that, would a judge be sympathetic to my case only because he knows that I'm an NDC person? It's real. And sometimes the judges themselves in chambers of court, are you NDC or NPP?
Wow.
You know, maybe it could be just in transit of a joke or something. But I go to court with the fear that I might not have good judgment. Not because my case is not right or I'm not prosecuting my case right.
Because you belong to a particular party.
Particular party. So wherein lies the rightfulness of a country whose judicial system is defined whether or not you are an NDC person or NPP person. And this is even made worse when leadership of the country come out boldly to say that we shall jail them all. Listen, we shall jail them all. So this all leads to the perception. I'll arrest my case.
Right, Chamawadia.
Perception can kill.
Can really kill, actually.
And like I was saying earlier, all the coups that we had in Ghana were based on perception. Perception. Recently, Burkina Faso, they said the leader there was not doing well, so they out because of the people are killing those.
Coups are fed by perception.
Perception. Yeah.
Democratic usurpation is also perceived by the same perception. Because there's a democratic government, and then you go about it's corrupt. It is this. You build perception against that government.
That's right.
It's a reality.
If you go you go to Burkina, I think yesterday or 3 days today, they took out the president because they said there was insecurity. The people advancing, killing people were, and now they went to kill. Yesterday or 3 days, a few days ago, the people came and attacked heavily than ever before. Now I ask myself, you see, instead of you all sitting down together and thinking of how to, and then you having because the people advancing doing those things are among the community. I saw something today. Somebody was talking about we should come out when we see people who are bad. You see people amongst us in our community. We should. I was just reading somewhere. But perception is the president who is causing that. Is the wife of the president. Is the vice president. And truly, you see, perception you can create for somebody. You can keep talking about somebody and keep telling he's a liar. That is somebody's advancing that, and in the minds of people it will register. What they call that propaganda. You can get people telling evil about you, and they get closer. Akufo-Addo, Nana Danko Akufo-Addo. I don't know if you have met him one-on-one. I believe you have. Excellency, you have. You have.
I met him in Rwanda.
Sometimes what you used to hear, when you meet him, you say, what are people talking about? They can create an aura.
But that is what I was telling Chairman one day. That there's a distinction between public service perception and individual perception. Because how I perceive you, like I know you personally, you are a very nice man. But it doesn't mean that
he started talking. I had my own perception.
Yes.
Because what was you going to do?
Because people who don't know, when they see you on TV, and then the way you are aggressive and you are defending your party, they might think, this guy is arrogant. You know, but for those of us who know you personally, we know that that's maybe a false perception.
Yeah. Kwame, excuse me. Kwame,
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
He said a very powerful thing. The perception is also created, not so.
Yeah.
Now, so for example, a trotro driver with a bad tie at the roadside, passengers are standing there. Then you see ministers. Show. Is that not a perception of impunity?
Yeah.
I mean, you travel to Cape Coast, Kaswa Road. Everybody is choked. Then we have 4 Land Cruisers drive in the middle of the traffic. It's not. I don't know the people who are creating the perception.
That is one good thing, one good example you have cited. From Jerry Rawlings' time to date. President Kufuor came, he attempted to cut this long convoy. You remember what happened to him? He was attacked. Atta Mills came, same. He said he would, and one day what he went through, which I have heard from the, I don't know if you know about that case.
What is the case? What is the case? Because Atta Mills had his convoy was full.
I mean,
but at the point he changed it. At the point he
for me in the final analysis.
But Atta Mills ministers, Rawlings ministers were ordered not to use Land Cruisers
in the final analysis.
In town.
In the final analysis.
Someone check that.
In respect of this.
At the point. I'm telling that at the point.
In respect of this.
No, check the ministers.
No, I know. At the point.
I really think that.
When the perception, as we are saying, when the perception at that time was that you were chopping.
No, but you see,
they were ordered.
No. Perception is created by reason of the actions or otherwise of another person. Because that's how you create perception. Because you see, if you say somebody is corrupt, you are perceiving the person to be corrupt. For instance, what the MVP said about Mahama. Until they came into power, and in admitting that, Charlie, some of these things, they perceived him to be incompetent, corrupt, and all of those things. And a bad manager of the economy. Now, people are also perceiving that Vice President Otamahumia is an incompetent person. So, perception is born out of what people do,
your actions
and what they say. So if you tell me that the fundamentals of the economy, for instance, is weak, and then that same person comes into power, fails to perform, and now tells me that when I say the fundamentals is weak, it is not directly related to the exchange rate, it's the percentage. Then what are you trying to tell Ghanaians? Do you understand what I'm saying? So it is perception. And for the simple reason that in the rules book of the judges, perception was mentioned. It means that the perception that they are referring to directly relates to the work of a judge. Do you understand what I'm saying?
You know what?
So clearly, I mean, we cannot.
Individual citizens do not have the mechanism.
To determine whether
the reality of a judge.
So we can always perceive, conjecture, until you prove us wrong. But the point is that if you are doing things which gives oxygen to the perception that we have, then it becomes a reality.
That's true.
That is why, even in court, people can allege. Or in most cases, people allege. But of course, you have to back your allegation with evidence. But it doesn't also prevent you from alleging. Do you understand what I'm saying? That is why you go to the police station, you make a case. Sometimes somebody goes onto your land, you've not actually seen the person. But the people around will tell you that it is Asumesi. When you go to the police station, you are alleging that Asumesi was the one who came onto my land. The investigation will determine whether it is that Asumesi or it is another person. But it doesn't stop you from also alleging that it was Asumesi. And those are all elements of perception. Perception is very important. The only reason why, like I told you before, our democracy has been sustained and is surviving till now is because we have been able to perceive people to be wrong, and though on the basis of that perception, we have changed them. Every 4 years, we change somebody. Every 4 years, we change somebody. Because we do not have the wherewithal. We don't sit where they sit. We are not a Jubilee House or Flagstaff House to determine whether or not they are actually doing the work. It is when we are there. That is when we will know whether they are doing the work or not. Insofar as we are not with them, insofar as we are not a pivotal part of how they govern, we can only sit behind and have and observe and perceive whether or not they are doing the job. So perception there, it is very, very important.
Perception is very important.
Perception can be created.
Finally, yeah.
Perception can also be eroded. All is based on your what you say, and what you do.
Absolutely,
and how you do what you do. The minister, I believe, in his mind was being frank and open, but as you know, what he said, the perception is, this man, are you dining or dating with some people now?
I will not be surprised if he changes within the next week.
Because it's like you are acting or you are asking the judiciary to, even if they see a lizard, they say it's a crocodile.
Right.
And if they see a cow, a goat, they say it's a
Lion, right. Thank you so much, Chairman. Thank you so much, Kwame Sudan. So, thank you so much, Ambassador Sampi Ale. It's been a very educative edition of the morning show, Good Morning Africa, live here on Pan African Television. See you same time tomorrow. Have a nice day. Bye bye.